changes the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be contrary. I actually find it makes the game harder to play.
Really?
Control
That's a hot take.
feel like moving around in the 3D, like it for some reason it just subtly looks off to me, and the controls feel slightly floaty. I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just because I haven't gotten used to it because I've really only been playing Scarlet and Violet lately for Terra Raid stuff. But
yeah, I found in my
feels a
experience,
little off.
Terra Raids have not been improved at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will say the Terra Raids feel a lot better, not as laggy. So there's at least that for it. But yeah,
I
it just
will
feels
say,
a little weird.
oh, go ahead. I will say I don't get physically nauseous playing the game anymore, and that feels fantastic.
Yeah, me neither.
And I got so I went through, got the DLC again, did all the stuff, and I will say I am a Torterra fanboy, and for me to see Torterra with at least a bit of texture, that's like one of the highlights to me. And I will say my first introduction to the game was looking at the trees on the first route, and I think my favorite way to describe it is it looked like a PS2 game. Now it kind of looks like a PS2 remastered game. I have to say, looking at the trees and watching them move and not seeing them be like static pixels was my first introduction. I thought it was a lot better.
And the windmill in Artisan actually moves smoothly now.
The Sunflora, they run with no lag.
Yeah, they do.
It looks beautiful.
They made the game good.
I actually looked at
always
the windmill in Artisan. The only windmill I've looked at is the ones over by where you fight Titan Bombardier. And they still have the issue where they are just frozen until you get really close to them, which I was a little disappointed by.
Oh wow! Not every windmill's a winner.
I think for me, I forgot there were only 10 Sunflora, and I think it's because I was so trained on the scene when they're all running behind you looking like poorly done stop motion film that
it was so bad.
Yeah, it was horrible. It honestly, I know a lot of people have this hot take, like not even a hot take, but the whole Galar, the seventh gym, the guy sings and there's literally no words.
I love that. I love that cutscene.
That was not as bad as the Sunflora to me. And now I feel like the fact that I don't have to put the game down for 2 hours after the Sunflora scene is a massive improvement. Anyways, I'm sure we could keep going on and on about that. But I will get us officially started.
Was that meant to happen?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're back. Hello.
We're back
because my computer closed for a second there.
All good.
Well, I promise Oh, if that doesn't signal what kind of cast this is going to be tonight. Welcome, all those listening, all of our cast. Oh my gosh. Hopefully that does not happen again. I have no idea how that happened. But welcome to the Pokemon Presents Prediction Cast. It's gonna be an interesting one, in my honest opinion. I obviously am Rhodehawk, the host. I know it's been a while since we did this real life, and many other things are a kicker, but we are so excited to get this going again. And because of everything going on, I do want to give everyone a chance, I'm actually going to start with Archaic, but I think I've come up with a heck of a kicker of a icebreaker question. So Archaic, can you let us know who you are, what you do, and then let me know which do you think is better? Pokemon Colosseum, Pokemon Colosseum XD.
Hello, everyone. I'm Archaic, Bulbagarden Webmaster, resident old trainer yelling at Altaria. And rather than directly answer your question, I'll give you a confession. I've never played XD. It was too expensive for me to get. So I'm really hoping it comes out on Switch too, because I've been waiting a very long time to play it.
I think that is fair. Obviously not the era of $70 games, I think, but that's completely fair. Mochi, will you go next for us?
Okay, I'm Mochi. I write about VGC for Bulbanews. I stream on the Bulbagarden Twitch weekly doing ranked battles. I must say, I've also never played XD Gale of Darkness, but I think, in my opinion, Colosseum does kind of have the edge, just because I like shiny hunting, I like finding rare Pokemon, and Colosseum, I believe, just that the shadow Pokemon you catch do just have a random chance to be shiny, which I don't think is the same in XD Gale of Darkness. And just that one thing completely tips Colosseum in my favor, I think.
Right. Storm, please go ahead. Let
Um,
us know who you are.
Hi, I'm Storm. I am an admin on Bulbapedia, member of the leadership board. So I know a lot about Pokemon. But I have to confess that I have never played Colosseum or XD. I have watched playthroughs on YouTube though. So from what I've seen, um, I think I like XD better, but again, haven't actually played it. Looking forward to it getting on NSO so that I can actually play them myself.
And then Caps, please let us know who you are, and please don't make me feel like the odd one out for being the only person who play both.
I am sitting here dumbfounded right now that none of you have played Peak. But the more I think about it,
300 quid.
yeah, it's expensive. So hi, I'm Caps.
It's worse for us in PAL versions. It's cheaper for you in America. I want to
I mean, even so, in America, it's like 150 plus to get a copy of XD out of box these days. I know this because I have one. But hello, I am Caps. I am the multimedia coordinator here at Bulbagarden. I oversee the Twitch and YouTube channels, and I stream. I'm also a member of the forum staff as an admin, and section moderator for a couple of sections. And yeah, I'm a little bummed that none of you have played Colosseum or XD. However, my opinion of Colosseum and XD is actually a little nuanced as well. I do think Colosseum, its game design is a little overrated. So I much prefer XD because of the way that they treat shadow purification in that game. They don't make you backtrack to one specific place. You can purify more than one Pokemon at a time a lot easier. Stuff like that. And also I have nostalgic attachment to XD because that is the one I had as a child. I got it as a kid when it was $15 out of box. So yeah, that's that. Back to you, Road.
I do want to highlight anyone who did not get to play the game in classic GameCube just to gush about XD. I honestly think the cutscene where they show Shadow Lugia for the first time, that is peak Pokemon trailer. It's
Agree.
so cool. I know a lot of people probably haven't. I think I've actually heard that Switch 2 is supposed to get Colosseum and Colosseum XD. I thought that was like a massive call for the games.
It's getting it. We just don't know when
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting this off, because I'm actually gonna
Maybe
my
something
question for
we'll announce in
everybody.
the Pokemon Presents is when we're getting Colosseum and XD.
I mean,
As Storm
personally, I'm
said,
hoping it's a shadow drop. Like, just give it to me into my
Shadow.
veins.
Shadow drop. Shadow drop. Shadow Pokemon joke.
Mm.
So, what is your top hope for this Pokemon Presents? Obviously, mine is Colosseum and Colosseum XD. I still have my classic GameCube. I can still play the game, but I'd rather play it on digital just so I don't destroy the disc. I'm actually going to start with Storm.
My top hope. I would like them to announce a new spin-off game that is not a mobile game.
That's so real.
Like, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy Pokemon mobile games, but I I feel like, that I miss having the ones that are like, where it's just, you buy it and then you have the whole thing and it never updates again and you can take your time getting through it and yeah.
Completely valid. Storm. I mean, not Storm. Mochi. What about you?
Well, I feel like I'm gonna give Captain Archaic my permission to talk about Legends ZA, so I can talk about Pokemon Champions. I really want to see more out of that. I really love VGC. I love watching it. I love writing about it. And maybe that's more a thing they'll keep for the World Championships. But I'd love to just see more about Champions, how it's going to work with official VGC tournaments, how the team building is going to work, if it's going to be similar to other online battle simulators. And of course, a bit of Legends ZA too, but mainly Champions.
So before I go to Archaic, I have to ask, as someone who likes VGC, I am not that person. How do you feel about there being multiple mechanics in Pokemon Champions?
That is, it's honestly really interesting because I feel like I've not been like a long time VGC fan, but at the moment it kind of feels like we've got another year left of Scarlet and Violet, assuming Champions doesn't take over the circuit. So it's like, what's next? We've done a single restricted format. We've done a double restricted format. We've done Regulation H, where there was no legendary Paradox Pokemon. What do we do next? And I feel like having multiple regional phenomena it really opens the door to a lot of different formats. You can have one with just Mega. You can have one with just Terra. You can have one with Mega and Terra. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Archaic, what are your thoughts on your top hope?
Okay, so I'll leave Legends A stuff for Caps, and I'll connect in a little bit to some of what Mochi was talking about. I want them to not announce Generation 10 or any remake of a past generation. I want the big announcements to be, like Storm said, a spin-off that's completely new or original, or some kind of thing that we haven't seen for a while. And I want them to take the actual time and care in putting together the next big entries for the game. Because I think that like Legends ZA is, let's be honest, it's a Switch game. The enhancements on Switch 2 are more likely to be just because it's a more powerful system, therefore it can run it better, as opposed to them having spent a heck of a lot of time learning how the Switch 2 works. And I want them to actually have that time with the Switch 2 before they put out a proper Switch 2 game. Heck, if the next game did a Black 2, White 2 thing again and was a Switch 1 game, I'd actually be happy with that as well. Like, let's do the cross-gen thing for a little while, and they can do the enhancements on Switch 2, and let them take their time learning the console, because I don't want something to be just slapdash and having people bashing it for its technical prowess again. So, I don't know, let's have Pokemon Picross. That'll satisfy me.
So that is actually a perfect segue to a question I originally had planned later. But Archaic, I'm going to jump off of what you said and ask you, do you think Pokemon's ZA can be well represented on Switch 2?
What do you mean by well represented?
At its core, do you feel like, I know you said it's going to be just like a Switch game with an upgrade, but do you think it's going to run well? Do you think it's going to be a significant
Oh, I think it'll run
difference?
perfectly fine on Switch 2. The question is how well it runs on Switch 1, since it is a cross-gen game. And it wouldn't surprise me if, like, I would like to hope that it runs better than either Legends ZA or Scarlet Violet did when they first came out. I think it'll run perfectly fine on Switch 2, but I don't think it's going to be a banner game for the Switch 2 in terms of like how fancy it looks graphically.
Storm Aura, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think that I would like it if if the game had some kind of like, additional features, or like it doesn't have to be a whole new mode, but just like, some kind of additional features that utilize the power of the Switch 2, that, it's because, if it's just a graphical and performance upgrade, it's like, yeah, that's nice, but like it's kind of underwhelming. Um so like, like they gave us a, performance update to Scarlet and Violet for free. If they're gonna if the Switch 2 version is gonna be more expensive, like there should be something more substantial there.
Can I
So
jump in and answer that and ping off of that, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I agree. I hope that the Switch 2 upgrade is something more substantial than just a performance upgrade. However, I do think that a lot of the upgrades in general have been performance upgrades. And I agree that it's a little, like, kind of a little scummy to charge an extra $10 for something that just looks better. But I mean, like, when you think about like the question specifically is like the power of the Switch 2, the capabilities, the features of the Switch 2. Like, aside from game chat, which I think Legends ZA being a single player game, I don't think they're going to utilize game chat very much. Um, like I don't really know what else they would add though, because like what you're gonna add mouse control? Like what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like I think that's a big problem with the Switch 2 right now too.
My PC with a mouse.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be cool, but like, would it be substantial enough? And I think that's my problem with the Switch 2 in general right now, is that I think the communication and the marketing around it has been pretty poor in showing just how much better things are on Switch 2. Because people who are not like tech savvy or stuff and stuff are gonna look at it and be like, well, what's the big idea here? Why am I spending money on a new console and getting a new version of the game? Right? Like, what is it giving me? What's new and cool about it besides it just looks better, you know? And if you don't really care about that stuff, like, what's going to convince you to make a purchase like for that? You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. It's a tricky thing to answer, I think. And I do think, Storm, that you have the right of it. They should give us something else, but I don't know what else there is to give. You know what I mean?
I mean, what you said about game chat does make me think about the Union Circle and how that feature would have been enhanced by having the voice chat as opposed
yeah.
to having to do Discord calls when we do that. So,
Yeah.
like, I can see some value adds, but
Yeah, but that's about Scarlet and Violet, not about ZA. You know what I mean?
well,
Like,
I mean, EA could have a similar feature. Could, might, probably
Could.
won't, but could.
yeah.
Really quickly, I do want to throw Mochi in on this. I have a couple other questions, but I'm gonna hold off until Mochi gets to say something.
Well, I think everything I wanted to say has been covered already. I would love to see, you know, once again, it's kind of similar to what Camps was saying. It would be kind of scummy to put this behind a paywall, even if it is, just $10. But I'd love to see maybe something similar to the Daybreak update from Legends Arceus. Maybe putting that in the Switch 2 version. Maybe somehow really adding a new update that really shows off what the Switch 2 can do with Pokemon. And I had something else to say, but I've forgotten it. Pretend I said something really groundbreaking there.
I mean,
Okay.
in a way, you kind of have. Like, here's the thing: we kind of sometimes forget. Pokemon is not, strictly speaking, entirely a first-party Nintendo game. Pokemon has its own agenda, and selling the new console is not part of that agenda. Hence why we got Black 2, White 2 on DS, because that's where the install base was. I can't actually see them offering something that would be exclusive to the Switch 2 version unless the Switch 2 version vastly outsells the Switch 1 version. And I think we'll have to see what the sales figures are after a month or two to know if they'll do anything there. I expect that the first game that may have Switch 2 exclusive features would be whatever the next remake or new generation title is. And even there, that's only if it's not a cross-gen title, I think.
I have nothing to add to that other than I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah, what you said.
Just to add this, just because I want to ask this. So I was thinking about this with the game chat. Do we think we would get a modified player search system, like an X and Y?
Oh, that'd be
Potentially
so
altered.
cool.
It'd be cool, yeah.
I'm kind of like biased towards X and Y because they were my first Pokemon games. The PSS, it was so good. It was all downhill from there.
I agree. I think the PSS was like the passerby stuff from Black and White done a little bit better because the 3DS had better capabilities to connect to internet. Do I think that they're gonna do something like that? I mean, like it'd be a cute throwback to X and Y, but I don't know. Feels a little too much effort for them.
Yeah, and like the PSS really only works as well as it does because the 3DS has two screens and the Switch doesn't, so I feel like it would be hard to integrate that in a really smooth way.
I don't want this to just be a Legends ZA, but I do have one last question that I have.
One thing, this line of thought just reminded me of something. Okay, so Legend ZA is set in a single city, effectively. Makes me think if there was going to be that kind of interactive experience, that something more akin to what we had in Gen 5 could actually be really interesting. I mean, I don't know if we'll have a street pass, but remember that what was it called? The that shopping street.
Oh, Join Avenue. Yeah.
Avenue?
Join Avenue. That's it. A Join Avenue in this game in this setting would seem thematically appropriate. And if that's like shops that are hosted by various trainers that you've met through the not street pass or whatever. I mean, I don't know if you could do a street pass like thing. Put your Switch in your bag and put it in sleep mode, but the Bluetooth keeps going. I mean, maybe they could do something. I don't know. Maybe I should have actually bought that Switch 2 Welcome Tour to understand how the system works.
Like I think it'd be, again, like it's a scenario of like, I think it would be cool, but I don't think they would spend the time and resources to develop something like that if it wasn't already built in, and it's not already built in, you know?
I am going to move us just a little bit more forward. Similar topic, and then I have several other questions I want to get to. But I'm wondering, do we think that we're just going to continue to see, we might get a detailed Legends ZA reveal, but do we think it's going to be kind of like Legends Arceus, a little bit Scarlet and Violet, where they play it super close to the chest, where I don't even think we ever got the full evolutions explored before Legends Arceus. But do we think they're going to be big reveal, small reveal, secretive? And I'm actually going to start with Storm.
I think that the amount of information they reveal in pre-release should be proportional to the amount of new information there is. So, like, if there are a ton of new megas, then yeah, they can reveal a decent number of them beforehand. But like in Legend Arceus, there weren't that many, regional forms and stuff, in total. So they didn't. So it kind of makes sense that they didn't reveal too many of those beforehand. So that. So I guess my answer would be it depends.
Completely fair. What about you, Mochi?
I think, well, I think Pokemon fans are very impatient. I feel like Pokemon Legends ZA is the first time in recent memory, at least for me, that Pokemon fans have had to wait a year just for a second trailer. And we've gotten quite a lot revealed already. Of course, there's the ZA Royale, there's the starters, there's what the game looks like, how it plays, but we're getting pretty close to its release date. And there's nothing about new Mega Evolutions. There's nothing about new Pokemon, or what the hell's Emma up to? Why is she on the box art? I feel like there's so much they have to talk about that right now. This Pokemon Presents upcoming will be the perfect time for it. Obviously, there'll be a few trailers here and there afterwards, but I think they really need a big hook to get everyone back on board.
I mean, the big problem is that if they spend 10 to 15 minutes on ZA, then we don't get too much else. And surely they're going to spend like 5 to 10 minutes on Champions. So, how much do we really want? Like a trailer with a bit on the plot, and like you say, maybe some of the new megas would be cool, but do we really want a massive deep dive when the game's almost out anyway? Or do we just need a little bit to tide us over?
Not last year, the Pokemon Presents earlier this month, I think, was 19 minutes, and I feel like we still got a lot of really good information out of that. The Legends ZA trailer was decently sized. There was the Champions announcement. There was, all the mobile stuff. I feel like with an extra 5 minutes, you can really do a lot.
I mean, at least we're not going to get a huge presentation about Worlds this year.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, hopefully not.
Actually, speaking of which, though, maybe this is going to be something we have to be aware of. How many announcements are going to happen in this Presents and which ones might be held back to be made during the closing ceremony of Worlds.
Yeah, especially with champions. That's something I'm really trying to keep in the back of my head.
Really quickly, I think that is a fantastic point, but I want to give us a question, and I want to open this up to our chat as well. And I'm actually going to start with Archaic, go to Mochi, Storm. I'll provide mine, and then I'm sure Caps has an opinion on this. But if you could pick a Pokemon, and Archaic has been here enough, that I'm going to ask no Ariados or Ladybug or other things like that. Maybe something a little different. If you could pick a Pokemon to get a Paradox form, a new type combo, or a Mega Evolution, Archaic, which would you choose?
Put me on the spot here, and unfortunately, you literally named the ones I would have thrown out. I really want an Australian region already. Dang it! Oh, gee. Ah, you know me too well. Okay. You know, I'm not going to say what I want so much as what I think they'll do. I think it'll be something that's perennially on our bottom 60 list for Bulbapedia. So for those of you who might not have been watching our social media, like every month we post a top and bottom 6, and every 6 months we're doing like was it a bottom 60 or was it a bottom 100? Anyway, we post like the top and bottom Pokemon, and there's a few Pokemon that are always on there, namely the evolutionary monkeys and Trumbeak. And I'm half expecting them to do something with like one of those Pokemon that are constantly at the bottom of our lists.
I think, I think giving a new form or mega to the elemental monkeys would be pretty cool.
Imagine like a paradox elemental monkeys, and they're like a different type trio. I think that could be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Would a paradox elemental monkey be more like a Neanderthal? If it's a future
Oh, that'd be
one?
really cool.
Be really cool if they all had like fighting type and then something. Oh wait, no, that's just the like poison trio from Katakuri. Oh my gosh, I can't say the name. Anyways, Caps, I do want to throw it to you before I give a choice.
Well, I mean, you know exactly what I'm going to say, Rode. And it's something that I believe that we'll get a mega of, and yeah, I think all but confirmed. And that's Mega Meganium.
I should have said no Meganium either.
Well, I can give you a second one if you want. Mega Trevenant.
That's a good champ.
I like that guy. Little tree guy.
I'm gonna throw out. I think this was a joke, but I'm starting to really want to see either a Furfrou or a Mega Furfrou. Just because I honestly love the fact that they took Dunsparce, it took all that fan art, all that awesomeness, and just said, here's more Dunsparce. And if they give us like an even snippier French dog for Furfrou, I feel like that is peak Pokemon trolling their audience. And I want to see it.
So Furfrou Chihuahua form.
Oh, that would be even better. Just like offshoots of Furfrou and whiny snippy dog. Oh my gosh. That being said, Caps, do we have any questions or any thoughts from the audience?
I have a couple of things that I want to highlight from the audience, and then I will get into a question that somebody has asked. Solar Symphony, one of our forums moderators, mentioned earlier. How long ago was Mystery Dungeon DX? Explorers remake anytime soonish? And I messaged her in chat and said that would have been my answer to my biggest hope for this presents. I think it's been 5 years since Rescue Team DX was released. And I would love to see a new Mystery Dungeon. I thought it was going to be for sure going to happen 2 years ago, and it did not. I don't know if they're really planning on bringing the series back, but I'd love to see it.
I do have
But
to say
that's
that
my
I would
answer.
prefer a new Mystery Dungeon game as opposed to a remake of Explorers, because like as much as I love the Explorers games, like I really want to be able to play as like the Alola starters and the Galar starters, and seeing new Pokemon, and and the other thing is just that if they're just doing remakes, that kind of makes it feel like that they're not interested in doing anything more with the series, and that's disappointing. So
Yeah, I tend to agree with you as well. I'd like to see something new from Mystery Dungeon, but at this point, I would also just like be happy with even like the ports of Explorers on a Nintendo DS NSO or something that may or may not happen on the line. But yeah, that's kind of I definitely agree with you. Another comment I wanted to acknowledge was, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying, Mochi, earlier about how Pokemon fans sometimes can be, a little impatient
True.
and the actual very real effects about that. Donut Anon says, with lack of anything new, I haven't been excited for ZA as I was for PLA. And that's a very good point. I think with PLA, they had a couple of trailers, but I felt like, at least it felt like the updates to that were more kind of like, quick. But at the same time, like, when PLA was being teased and released, I felt, well, they also had BDSP and Unite and stuff as well. So there was definitely a lot more going on at that time. So I can see how it might feel different, even if it isn't as different. But
Can I add to
Yeah.
that really quickly?
Go ahead.
I think what Pokemon Legends Arceus also had with it was it felt like a whole new region. Like they teased it as Hisui, and it was vastly different. And I feel like part of the thing that might be impacting people is the very real thing that it is a closed off map as far as we know. And the fact that it is, and I think this also comes from the last generation having its main city be so underwhelming. And the fact that it is just Lumio City, I think, is really turning people off rapidly. Um, Especially after a Legends game that felt so more open.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I know there's quite a few Bulba staffers who feel that way too. Last thing before I get to the chat question, people were shouting out their potential megas. We have Mega Gorgeist Furfrou Daft Punk form, which would be awesome. Furfrou with a helmet sounds so funny. Mega Crocodile, Mega Slurpuff, or potentially the Elemental Monkeys, which kind of goes off of what you were saying, Archaic, about potentially the new forms being in our kind of forgettable one, Bulbapedia. And then our question, which comes from Quagsire Joe, this is asking about ZA. What are y'all's thoughts on the new battle system? Anyone got opinions?
I'll put myself on the chopping block first. It may not be popular, but I'm actually really excited for it. I know a lot of people may not like this, but I like, so I've said this on multiple casts. I personally feel like Pokemon is moving to diversify what it creates in a lot of really unique ways. And part of the reason I like this, make sure my computer does not kick me off of the call again. Um, Part of what I like about the system is I feel like it has a really good opportunity to move from what I think is one of Pokemon's biggest weaknesses, and there are certain games that have done it really well, actually, which is the background during battles feeling useless. Um, I really like the update on the Switch too for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but it's still not pretty. It's still not like you don't utilize it very much. You don't utilize your space. And it also feels to me like this game is going to require more thinking than I have type advantage. I click button, everything dies. And like I've gone on record, I've said in Galar when I was against Leon, I had Inteleon, I G-maxed, I pressed a button, Charizard died. Which is the first time I've ever fought against a champion and one shot his lead Pokemon. Or hers. And that was a really distasteful thing for me. I did not enjoy that. And I think this battle mechanic has the potential. Obviously, people are going to hate it. Like the Pokemon company, like Pokemon fans don't always like new. Many people do. I think this battle mechanic is going to potentially, right? Potentially with an asterisk, really change up that battle mechanic.
Like, here's the thing with this new battle mechanic. I mean, I don't know how the competitive people will respond, but people who've played Pokemon primarily as a single player game, going back to Gen 1, we had people imagining how being able to use the terrain as part of battles would be so cool, and wouldn't it be so cool if Pokemon had proper 3D movement and you could do these sorts of things, because we saw Ash doing those sorts of things in the anime, and we wanted to be able to do that too. Like being able to use the terrain and have both myself and my Pokemon move around during battle is really, really exciting to that inner child who remembers like doing all the Pokemon anime style battling RPG stuff on forums in the early 2000s. Like, this is, well, late 90s and early 2000s. Jeez, I'm old. But I think it's really exciting. And it may really upset some of the competitive folks who it completely upends, but it's like, it's a Legends game. It's not going to be used for tournaments. Do it! Do it!
I was actually going to say, Archaic, I was fighting the desire to bring up Ash the entire time I was talking. Because I, like, in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, I get to be a Pokemon trainer in the anime. Which I think is massively cool.
Yeah.
The only problem is they're going to have 20 plus years of expectations from us old farts about what this will be like, and they could really mess it up badly.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm a little on the fence about it, because like on the one hand it does seem like it'll be cool to to do in like boss battles and stuff, but I feel like that if every battle is like that, then it could wind up having the same kind of problem that I kind of had the problem a little bit in the original Legends EA or Legends Arceus, and in like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where it just like grinding up your Pokemon's levels is just like you can't just mindlessly grind. And so it's like you have to be very deliberate in your grinding, which is just annoying, or your Pokemon just end up like you can't level them up easily, and it's kind of it discourages me from continuing to play the game in the post game. So like, yeah, I guess that's my biggest concern about it.
Mm. I mean, it's kind of the same problem Colosseum had, didn't it? That like when you got a new Pokemon, you basically had to replace a Pokemon on your team with that Pokemon immediately, because otherwise you'd never be able to train it up. Because I mean, in that game there weren't any wild Pokemon to fight really. It was just trainers, and grinding was so tedious because of that. Doing the whole mountain over and over and over. Here, I mean, if every single like random encounter is tedious, then there's a huge disincentive to not really change up your team too much, not incorporate new Pokemon into it because you don't want to have to train them up. So yeah, it kind of does make you wonder, like, is it better to have that sort of thing only for the really big climactic boss battles? Or only fights against other trainers? And do you really want to have that for every single fight against every single wild Pokemon you run into?
This actually, I sorry to interrupt the conversation, but Mochi, you like VGC. Have you seen the detail where it looks like there's a charge meter for Mega Evolutions?
Yes, I did see that. That was very interesting. I saw a lot of people, because it seems it's there when you've got a Pokemon out in battle that can't Mega Evolve. It still just sits there. It still charges. I saw a lot of people speculating about Mega Diggersby because of that, because there was a Diggersby on screen and the meter was full. And everyone was like, "Oh my god, Mega Diggersby!"
Do you think that could lead to being able to use more than one Mega in battle?
Oh, I really hope so. That'd be really cool. It'd be insanely overpowered, like competitively speaking. But it would be so interesting. Maybe just for like one format, just let it go crazy.
Yeah, I've heard some talk about that. I also I don't want to keep us on this question for too long, but the other thing that I thought was really cool is the fact that you can now sneak up on NPC trainers and just outright body their partner Pokemon that they have out. That seems amazing. I think it's going to be ridiculously hard to storm an Archaic's point, but I do wonder, and again, I don't just want this to be just Legends ZA, but I do wonder if the different areas you unlock with wild Pokemon do scale up based on difficulty and the amount of battles you win.
See, the problem with scaling becomes if it's not dynamic to... Okay, so if it's dynamic to your current team, it allows you to potentially cheese fights by going in with a team of really weak Pokemon and one stronger Pokemon that can completely wipe the floor with the median Pokemon level that it ends up with. Like it'd depend on whatever algorithm they'd use to scale it, but you can't really scale to the lowest members of the party, or it enables very cheap gameplay. If they scale to the higher members of your party, or to the highest member of your party, then you've got the problem of how do you level up Pokemon without weakening your team. Like, I mean, I guess if you only go into battle with 5 battle-ready Pokemon and then one that's just there as an XP sponge to level up, then that kind of works, but that's not particularly engrossing gameplay. Like, you're not exactly forming a bond with your Pokemon over time if it's just sitting there attracting your ire because you can't do anything with it until it's gotten enough levels. So it's hard. As much as I've talked about wanting scaling for a while, I have to admit it's hard to do.
For the sake of time, unless Caps, you want to add anything else to this, I think we should move on to another question. But Caps, is there anything else you want to add?
No, go ahead.
All right.
Although let's maybe try a Don ZA question.
Yeah, no, I'm moving us on. We've had like an hour of ZA. I do want to move into something because Archaic, you and I talked about this briefly, and this could be its own whole thing. But in the past, we've gotten some really cool Pokemon anime reveals. Personally, some of my favorite anime projects that we've seen have been teased or revealed. I don't want to turn this into just a Pokemon Resort or that stop motion show, which I can't remember the name of. Concierge. I don't want to turn it into ZA and Concierge. But what anime reveals do we think we might get? And Mochi, you've been a little bit more quiet. Are you comfortable answering this question?
I can answer this question. I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this for like years, ever since Petron was released in Mochi Mayhem. That's where I get the name from. I do wonder, because it seems like Scarlet and Violet is missing a mythical Pokemon, and I always assumed it was. I think every Pokemon presents like, this is the one. We're going to get a new animated movie. It's going to have the new mythical in it, and we'll get a new mythical because that gorilla in the Scarlet and Violet books. There's a page that's just sketches of Pokemon that can be found in Area Zero, and one of them is the back of a gorilla, and it's not Slacking, it's not Oranguru. What is it? Where does that gorilla come from? Is it just a gorilla? No, it's probably a mythical Pokemon, but I really, that's like the one mystery left in Scarlet and Violet. I'd really like to see that wrapped up in a neat bow.
I mean,
and so
okay, so let's link into this. Pokemon has not had a theatrical movie since 2021. They basically stopped because of COVID. We've had plenty with Liko and Roy. The only problem being that Japan, where the first kind of main story arc ended, is not a good point to insert a movie. And you couldn't release a movie past the time skip until internationals caught up to that time skip at least, and frankly with the setup that's still going in the series, you couldn't really have a Liko and Roy movie yet. I think they'd need to resolve some stuff. So as much as I'd love to see a main series movie, I don't think we could get one, but perhaps we could get, if they wanted to, a movie with Ash.
It'd be very popular, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if that would be in the remake universe thing, or if it would be in a post Journeys one. I mean, what we're up to? Secrets of the Jungle was the third movie in the alternate continuity, wasn't it? I guess you could do an alternate continuity one now, and it'd be about the right time for it. But yeah, I could see it happening if they were going to announce a movie, because otherwise, yeah, sure, we'll get Concierge. Hopefully not Path to the Peak, but Series 2, because that would just be tone deaf with how hard it is to get the cards right now. Well, though, you could do a series that's all about playing with your old cards and playing online and so forth to teach people that it's not just about competitive battling. But yeah, I do still think it'd be a
About
bit
an
tone deaf with
animated
the you
series
literally can't
based on
play anything.
PCG Pocket.
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible. But I mean, if there was going to be an animation project right now that would really excite people that hasn't already been announced, I mean, I guess we'll probably get, what, a 6-episode mini-series based on Legends ZA in the same way that we've had for past games. Like, that'll probably happen. Would they announce that here at Worlds? I don't know, but it's possible. But I'd really love to see a theatrical movie again.
So I had a couple thoughts listening to everybody's ideas. So first of all, Ash returning feels very modern movie, like very American, kind of like in the sense of getting rid of Iron Man in the MCU, saying he's gone, and then bringing him back years later, which I could see happening with how much money that movie would make. The other thing that I was thinking, and I doubt they would do this because I feel like it would tick off a lot of people, but again, would feel very kind of Pokemon trolling its own fans. I would actually like to see a Path to the Peak with a quote unquote evil team that steals up cards. And would they do it? Probably not. Like Team Rocket for collecting cards and keeping them from other people. Again, feels very like political in the Pokemon card space.
I mean, that's not that wouldn't, like, Team Scalper and just a big a series that's just a big middle finger to Team Scalper would be amazing.
That'd be so meta.
Like, you don't even need to have them steal things. They can be literally just buying up all the cards and making all the kids cry because they can't get cards. Like, adults, stop ruining things for the kids. If this franchise doesn't have kids to become new fans, the franchise won't continue. Stop ruining it for the next generation of fans.
And to add to that, they need to design them like the Gen 1 and 2 burglars that just like were randomly stealing things. I feel like that would be such a nostalgia trip, but at the same time would be, oh my gosh, adding to that thing. I could dive down this in a really long way. But to follow up on that, because oh my gosh, and those in the audience, let us know what you would want to see as well. But for the sake of time and to not in kind of in a similar vein, not to be Legends ZA, and I'm going to ask that we don't talk about Legends ZA, but what rumor do we think is the most credible? And I know not all of us pay attention to rumors. I'm going to throw it out there. Again, rumor, very much probably not going to happen, but based on the conversation around, Pokemon Snap returning on the Nintendo Switch, and then new Snap game. This is me like fantasizing for a moment. I'd love to see a new Colosseum game, especially with the care given to that. And I know there's a rumor about that, which there is every year. But Storm, do you have a rumor that you think is credible?
Well, I haven't really been paying much attention to rumors. So I don't think I can give you anything there.
Okay. Mochi Archaic, do you have a rumor that you think is credible?
Archaic, do you have anything?
If any of the rumors going around have any sort of potential credibility, I'd say Gen 5 remakes. I'm not particularly enthused about it at this point, but look, okay, next year's the 30th anniversary. Gen 5 was there for the 15th anniversary. We've just had the Black-White series TCG cards. Obviously, there were plenty of Gen 5 related things with the Scarlet Violet DLC. Mega Evolution. I could absolutely see Gen 5 remakes. I don't particularly want it. I don't think it's likely, but of the rumours I have seen, it seems the most credible to potentially happen.
Also, to give a special shout out, I think it was either Pokemon Day this year or I was one of the last presents last year. And I think it was about the time Legend ZA came out, when no one was expecting it. The Pokemon Company, and again, to talk about my admiration of how they troll people, I think it was like max a day later, released gameplay clip of just the Pokemon trainer running around Driftvale City. And I think it was something like Pokemon Black and White. Do you remember this or something?
Was it?
And
I remember that.
When was this
yeah,
again?
it was beautiful. It was last year, I think, either or earlier during Pokemon's Day. They just perfectly timed it. They had like a legend. It was one of the ZA trailers, and no one was expecting it. And they just on their shorts, like as a short, literally just had the main character running around Driftvale City. And I think it was something to do with nostalgia. Like, do you remember this?
I have
And
I
it
have a
was-
theory
Before
what that was
ZA
about.
was announced?
It
I
could
can't-
be. I don't remember the
I think
exact.
it was slightly
timing, but
after.
If it was
Yeah.
if it was last year, it was probably in reference to the Dancing Toothless meme that had the Driftvale City music in the background. That went like
Oh, that's a good
viral on
point.
TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't think it was anything to do with like trolling the fans and more just like them trying to take advantage of the fact that sound went viral. But
But it was also
you never know.
so funny.
It was fantastic.
Everyone just sitting on the computers like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
I will say, just not Pokemon's official YouTube channel has been stellar in like the memes and stuff that it's done
Mhm.
within the last year. I think there was something, and it was like Snorlax or some super cuddly Pokemon, and it was just like, "Are you in need of a hug?" And then they had the Slowpoke song recently, which was just peak Slowpoke. They're knocking it out of the park. I love it.
And metatextually, they released that Slowpoke song very late. We'd already seen that from Japan a long time ago.
That being said, we are actually rapidly going through our questions, and I love it. So as we go, speaking of that, because I think this is actually archaic, and everyone keeps setting up great expectations based on past expectations versus the realities for Pokemon Presents and other reveals. Do you think Pokemon is moving in a good direction, or do you think the Pokemon brand is in decline? And Archaic, we've bonded how we're both old on this. I'm actually going to jump to you.
So long as we don't jump straight to a new generation, I think they're going in the right direction. I think slowing down is vitally important for the brand right now. I think that for too long they were releasing games at too quick of a pace, and I think what they need to do, particularly now that they're effectively working on a home console rather than on portables, is that they need to take advantage of DLC to stretch out generations for a year or two longer than they would, to do things like the Legends series to allow them to experiment with other game styles within the Pokemon universe. I really want to see them do spin-offs again and use that to extend a generation as well. And again, to play around with doing other games in the Pokemon universe, so they're not just burning themselves out making the same style of game over and over. And so long as they do that, I think the company is going in the right direction. And I think also that stretching out the gens really helps some of the younger fans in particular in a cost of living crisis, because it means their parents can actually afford to get them the game before it's become yesterday's news.
That is so true. Mochi, what about you?
I think a lot of the points Archaic was making, I completely agree with. They do seem to be slowing down, at least slightly. There's a 4-year gap between, well, assuming Generation 10 releases in November next year, that's a 4-year gap between generations instead of the usual 3. I'd love to see it slow down a bit more. Of course, if you look at the numbers, financially speaking, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield made so much money. So I suppose depending on how you look at the question, it's definitely, financially speaking, they're definitely going in the right direction. But I do really hope they just take their time. They properly listen to feedback. Because I feel, maybe I'm just saying this because I'm young and I've not been around long enough. But I feel like Game Freak are pretty good at listening to feedback. Like, maybe it's more when it comes to gameplay, but there are a lot of issues with Mega Evolution that I think were fixed quite promptly in with future gimmicks in Sun and Moon. I think there are a lot of issues with the max raid battles in Sword and Shield that were fixed in the Crown Tundra and later in Scarlet and Violet. So I hope they can look at the insane amount of criticism that spouted from Scarlet and Violet's release. I hope they really can slow down. And I think maybe another issue is that the mainline Pokemon games, at least personally, I don't feel like they really have much replayability. I know when I was younger, I played through X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire all the time, and I loved playing those games. I loved doing all the the post game stuff, the Delta episode. There's a reason why it's so beloved, and I love the game so much. I'd constantly get to the end of the game, delete my save, make a new save, get to the end, delete my save, play again. And I feel like modern Pokemon games are really missing that replayability, but also maybe it's just because I'm, an adult now.
Storm, any thoughts?
Not much that hasn't already been said. I just, I'm really glad that they took a year, that they, announced it and then didn't give us anything for a year, because that indicates that they, that they are taking their time with it. And so yeah, I really hope they don't announce any new core series stuff in the presents, because yeah, like Archaic said, they need to slow down, take more time, give kids time to buy the newest game and whatnot. So yeah, I think just taking more time is the way to go.
And then
Actually, it also occurs to me, the more time they take between generations, the more time they have to think of interesting new Pokemon. No more ice cream cones.
No, but
I know
it's
it's
great.
not really an ice cream cone, but still.
What the? I love Vanilla White.
Vanilla is so good.
Yeah, and where is it on our bottom 100 again?
It's not there. It's not there. Trumbeak is there.
Oh, it's not there. It's, Vanillish is there. It is at 1011.
Oh, okay.
Really quickly.
I'd like to imagine you've got like a mental note of it.
No, I've just got the list right in front of me.
Really quickly, because I know we have a couple people, myself included, who play Pokemon Masters. Storm, I just want to ask you really quickly, a modified version of my question, because I know we got to return to the audience and things. Storm, what are you expecting when it comes to the mobile game reveals?
Okay, so I was actually thinking about this before the cast, and I think that it's, for Masters, it's a little bit of an awkward timing because Masters anniversary is at the end of August, and they start the run up to anniversary in mid-August. So it's feels a little too early to start announcing the anniversary stuff. But they did but they told us in a producer letter a couple months back that they're adding a new type of permanent battle content that they describe it as a tower style content where battles are divided by type and stuff. So I think that would be probably a and they said it was going to come in the update at the end of July, which is like next week. So I think that would be a good thing for Masters to announce. And TCG Pocket will probably announce its next set because they've been doing one set a month, so that's kind of a no-brainer. But I am curious what they do with Pokemon Sleep because it's they're kind of like in the middle of their anniversary celebrations. Um so like they're already announcing a bunch of stuff, so it's like what so it's like I wonder what in particular they would want to focus on for the presents.
I mean, Sleep's problem is that it's just not exciting enough. It's too much of a snooze fest. I don't think.
Boo!
Look, I'm the old fart. I'm allowed to make dad jokes.
Boo!
But no, seriously, like if Sleep was in the presents, like, and it took more than a minute, it would put us to sleep. Like, there's nothing particularly exciting about it for the context of a present. I think Sleep will. Well, it'll probably be there, but yeah, it'll be like a quick minute thing to go, hey, remember, we've got our anniversary thing on, and log in and you get the free gifts, and moving on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and something else that I think is also potentially possible that Masters could announce is a new Academy event, because they haven't had one since those were introduced back in April, and it feels like a good thing to add to run in kind of and lead up to the anniversary because it gives you a free sync pair, so that can incentivize people to come back to the game, um and it also works. The timing kind of works out because it's at least in the Western world, it's around the time that kids are going to start going back to school, so it would kind of feel thematically appropriate to have a school themed event right around now. So I think it's possible that they'll announce a new Academy event starting next week or something.
No,
It's
no,
worth noting that, like, the data mine stuff. So, I mean, people data mine Masters all the time, and there's data
Yeah.
mines going up to the end of July, and there's not really anything particularly interesting in
Yeah.
that. It wouldn't be the first time that they've updated a game and inserted something into the schedule late, but they don't normally do that. So if they do give us something, it might be. I mean, an Academy event would be great, but it might be in August rather than in the current cycle.
Maybe.
I will add to that. They did just drop 2 ArcSync event pairs,
Yeah.
and it might seem a little tone deaf if they announce 5 or 6 new sync pairs that are going to cost you money when there are many people who are dropping a lot of money to get honestly wild sync pairs and Silver and Ethan. Really quickly though, I don't want to go to Mochi, and I would like to gather your thoughts that you may or may not have already said on Champions, especially because it could be on phones from what I've seen.
Yes, it is releasing for both iOS and Android. I was going to say, I'm very excited to have another opportunity to talk about Pokemon Champions. I'm very excited to see the mobile aspect of it. Of course, it being on the Switch and the Switch 2 is great, but I think it being on phones is such a great. It's great for accessibility. You know, there are times where I'm laying in bed. You know, like I want to maybe do a few battles, but I have to get up. I have to turn my Switch on. I have to turn my monitors on. Just being able to do it on your phone is really increases the accessibility, and I think there's a lot of potential for really expanding the player base for VGC, which of course is just great all around.
Here's a question for you, Mochi.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Champions will have a substantial single-player mode that is worth playing?
That is
Say,
a good question.
Like, say, a battle tower equivalent or something like that, or a Pokemon World Tournament equivalent. Because I'm just looking at Champions and I'm going, if this is basically Pokemon Battle Evolution, but for phones and Switch, then, I mean, people who aren't already into competitive might find it very difficult to get into, like especially if they're still having to train their Pokemon outside of Champions.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was reminded of TCG Pocket. When it first released, I was messing around with it. I did a few of the tutorial battles. I don't know anything about TCG, but just doing the tutorial, basic tutorial stuff was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed learning it for that short time. I would really love to see them do, as you were saying, a proper single player battle facility that is also used as an in-depth tutorial. I've been playing a game recently, and one of my biggest issues with it is it just really doesn't tell you how to improve at the game. And as you were saying, I think if a similar issue arises with Champions and VGC, that could be a really bad, I suppose, sort of bottleneck for the series. So yeah, I'd love to see it. I hadn't thought about that until now.
I love that we end off there. Caps, though, I have seen that we might have some great points. And one last question before we end.
Yeah, I don't want to highlight any messages necessarily, but I do have a couple of questions that I want to ask, provided to us from our Twitch chat. Sorry, I'm moving around with some stuff on my desktop to make room. This is from Colors. She asks, spicy question for the panel. What do you think the quality of the games would be like if Game Freak stuck to pixel art instead of 3D? Your thoughts?
I wouldn't have stuck to pixel art. I would have licensed Square Enix's HD 2D. But honestly, the thing people keep complaining about is the graphics. And if you had a style that you stuck to, it wouldn't open up those criticisms. So it might have helped them avoid those criticisms, but then at the same time, without going to the fully 3D world, they wouldn't have been able to introduce all of the new mechanics that they've had. So it's a bit catch-22.
Just to jump into that, I have heard this question a lot. Archaic absolutely said it. I was going to bring up the HD 2D. The thing that I love the Pokemon fan base. I love Pokemon. With this question, the only thing I'm really going to say that's probably going to be super unique is Pokemon is one of the biggest things in the world right now. They bring in so much money. They have decades of fans. all of this stuff, there's always going to be people upset. There's always going to be people critiquing it. In my opinion, I'm happy that they went to 3D. Yes, there are things that get lost. Yes, there are things that change. And let's be honest, the Pokemon fan base is not always big on change, especially when that change is different than what a large chunk of us want. And that is not to like shame anyone or make anyone feel bad. But I will say some of my favorite memories within Pokemon recently have been going to 3D games and seeing new elements of how the Pokemon move and behave. I said this a long time ago. One of my favorite things about Scarlet and Violet is seeing how the Pokemon behave with one another, how they move throughout the world. And yes, Scarlet and Violet have a lot of flack, but especially with the Switch 2 upgrade, from going from like maybe 5 or 6 Pokemon to an area to literally like 40 or something, and seeing how they interact with one another, that is an amazing thing to me. And it makes me feel Pokemon are way more alive. But also to end this, I will say that time crunch they put themselves under, and I'm not gonna lie, I think Nintendo puts a lot of that pressure on them. It takes away some of that magic, but saying there is no magic and there has been no magic equal to that, I think is unfair.
And to me, I think that the 3D games, um, they may have that, especially at first, they may have been a little lacking in like, making the Pokemon expressive. But I feel like they've made great strides in making the human characters more expressive. Um, like, you'll see, the even in even in Black 2 and White 2, which I think is like, the peak of Pokemon, the peak of Pokemon pixels, that that sometimes the characters will have like little animations, but it's like they're so small that you can't even tell what they're doing. And so um it's like, seeing their, just little things like, just little details like, that like how we'll get excited, and so he like jumps up in the air and um and like stuff like, that Hop and Leon both do this thing in their when you battle them in the Champion Cup, where they like slap their cheeks, and that you don't get that kind of stuff in just a 2D sprite. And so um I feel like there's a lot of potential for um characterization and expression that's only possible due to 3D models. However, I do think that there is a limit to how far they should take that, and that I don't really like the art style of Scarlet and Violet. I think it's too realistic. um and that sticking with the cartoony um aesthetic of Sword and Shield, I think, would have been a better choice. So that's my 2 cents.
Great. And then Mochi, I want to give you a shot as well to respond as quick as you can.
Okay, I'll go extra speedy. Of course, we're talking about how successful the Pokemon franchise is. A lot of that is from merchandise, and I feel like the 3D games provide a lot of opportunities to connect with these Pokemon. Like in Scarlet and Violet, specifically, you can have a picnic with them, you can clean them, and psychologically speaking, that's going to create a lot more of a link in someone's head that you form a bond with this Pokemon. You go, I want to buy 1,000 plush toys of this Pokemon.
That just made me think about, like, when I was growing up, you'd see all these advertisements for on TV for like mostly aimed at young girls, but like of toy pets that came with brushes and that to style them and so forth, and like fur that comes with its own grooming kit to allow you to groom it into the various different forms. I mean,
Free money.
surely some toy company can see potential in that sort of thing.
All right.
Heck, what?
I kind of want to move on just for sake of time because we do have a couple of chat questions here as well that I want to get to. And in that vein, I want to do kind of a rapid fire for these two. So I'll ask the question and then I'll go around the panel and just kind of see what you guys answer with. Maybe give like 30 seconds or so. The first question is, and both of these are from Normans. How many games do you think are left for Gen 9 before Gen 10? I'll start with you.
Including ZA, and only. Jeez, it depends if you include spin-off games, but if we're only including like main series type games, then ZA maybe one more game that would be a remake. That's it. Like spin-off games, there might be one or two, but I wouldn't expect huge amounts. It kind of depends if they're going to release Gen 10 for the 30th anniversary or if they're just going to announce Gen 10 for the 30th anniversary.
Hey, Rhodehawk, how do you feel about that?
So I'm going to try to be as quick as possible and make this concise. I don't know if we're going to get too many Switch games, especially with Champions, Masters. This wasn't even mentioned in the discussion so far. Cafe Remix. I think what we're going to see is them prioritizing their most profitable side games, like mobile games. And then I think what's going to happen, we may get a side game of some kind, but I feel like if we get that, that's absolutely going to be demolished by all of the attention that's going to be coming for ZA, Gen 10, and anything else that happens in the mobile game and otherwise.
Hey, how about you, Storm?
So I think that we're gonna have ZA this year, and Gen 10 is going to start next year in November, and Champions will release somewhere in between. And that's what I think.
And last but not least, Mochi, how many games left in Gen 9 before Gen 10?
I think ideally, similar to what Archaic was saying, if you count ZA, I think ideally you just have one. I think that's what I'd be happiest with. But Archaic was talking about black and white remakes earlier, and I think I've kind of been convinced because assuming Ilka were brought on board with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl to really speed up the remakes being developed. Of course, there was a huge backlash with how the games looked and played, and how the remakes were approached. But assuming the development or planning for black and white remakes started shortly after Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl's release, and they delayed it a year or two to work more and more on it. Would that potentially be coming up soon? Because if it's after Generation 10 releases, say Generation 10 releases November 2026, the DLC comes next year, then we'd have to wait until like 2028. And I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, just depending on like when Gen 10. I think the answer to that really depends on like when Gen 10 is going to come out, right? Like, and I feel like there's like kind of a varied opinion on that, even within our panel. It's interesting to hear the difference in thought. And then Normans asks another question that I'm going to do very quickly, and that is, what are your favorite evil team or evil gym or evil team leaders? And we'll go back around the other way. So Mochi, you go first.
That is a really good question. I think I feel maybe I'm very biased because I've said it before. My first games of Generation 6, I really love Team Flare. Just kind of how stupid they are. Like they're so over the top. And Lysander, he's written like some sort of twist villain, and he's got this huge red mane of hair and with a bright red suit, and he's like 8 feet tall, and he talks about destroying the entire planet. And then I guess Game Freak expects you to go, wait, he was the villain? I thought he was the good guy. Yeah, that's so stupid. It's beautiful.
What about you, Storm?
I they're not. If I don't know if Team Star counts because like they're a team, but their whole thing is that they're not evil. But I really like the way that their storyline was written. So that you start out thinking that like oh they're the bullies, and you start kind of wondering like if they're just a bunch of delinquent students and bullies, like why do they have this such a strict this strict code and rules of engagement and all and whatnot. And then you start to learn more about them and you realize like oh they're not they're not they're not bad. They're actually kind of nice. And kind of and just finding out more about them, and it's really cool the way that your perception of them just kind of shifts over the course of the story. um so yeah, I really like Team Star, but if they don't count as an evil team, then I guess I would say Team Skull because they're silly.
Yeah, school love. Rhodehawk, what about you?
So Storm actually said a lot of what I was gonna say. But first of all, Team Skull, absolutely adore them. And I wanna highlight, like, yes, a lot of evil teams have done horrible stuff. I want to parrot Mochi really quick with how dumb Team Flare are. I love the fact that Pokemon went with potentially one of the most evil things that has ever been in Pokemon, but they made the team like the dumbest idiots in any Pokemon game. And I love the fact that they're just like, oh, you're not fashionable enough, so you don't get to live. I love the fact that Team Skull like gets all this crap, but when you realize they kicked an entire town and potentially killed people, like that is really dark. And then because I know it's probably not, well, I could go on and on really quickly. Team Star, I love the fact that Pokemon really did like a mental trick on us, and we're like, oh, you automatically expect students to be bad guys, but this is honestly something lots of kids deal with. And then, in my opinion, one of the most evil jerks in all of Pokemon is actually Chairman Rose. And I love his story partly because, and I think a lot of people miss this, he emotionally manipulated and like psychologically messed with an orphan and like was literally willing to blow up his region because he was so lost. Like he was like, "Oh, I'm just going to create thousands of Pokemon that are realistically going to kill many people for the sake of energy conservation." Like it's so similar to Team Flare, and it's such a bad idea. And I really love the fact that Pokemon Masters is like, oh, we're going to take a point where he doesn't fully know his whole plan, and we're going to give him the inspiration for that to a degree. A complete idiot, but he is such a maniacal guy.
Yeah, not to get political, but with Rose, Pokemon realized that wealthy CEO who engages in long-termism is a complete a-hole long before the rest of the world woke up to that fact.
Archaic, what's your favorite evil team and leader? I have an idea what it might be, but
No. It's not
okay.
going to be the obvious one. Like, I appreciate evil teams that are evil. I don't want to have shades of grey stuff. Give me an acceptable target to punch.
Fair.
So, like, Getis, Team Plasma, like, as an evil villain who I really want to punch is excellent. We've got the whole nuanced storyline. En's not a bad guy. He's been manipulated, yada yada, and we've got the acceptable villain to punch. And with Team Flare, like especially Zerasik, or however you're meant to pronounce his name, because of what? But anyway, like the whole stuff he does is just so clearly evil. And like, I mean, mind control sorts of things are like some of the most horrifying scenarios for me. So, as a villain who is just, I really want to punch them over and over. Yes, definitely. But there is one other villain. And I'm kind of hoping somehow, miraculously, for no particular reason, they show up in Legends ZA just because we've still got Lysandra in there and you've still got the Team Flare connection and like killing people for, I mean, he's probably not killing people for fashion anymore, but still. Mirror B.
Oh
Mirror
god,
How
B.
can we
yes.
talk about evil team leaders with
Yes.
not talking about Mirror B?
He would have gone so well on Team Flare. Really would have done so well with them, wouldn't he?
I think my favorite thing about Lysander is, like Mochi said, they tried to make him like not seem evil, and within 30 seconds of him appearing within the game, I'm like, oh, that's the evil dude. Like, there's
Yeah.
no question that this guy is pure evil, and he also has like one of the most misogynistic lines in Pokemon. When he's talking to the champion, he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you should just stay young and beautiful forever because it is your purpose." And it's just like it's such a like it's a thing that does not appear in Pokemon very often. Um and it's just like, okay, this guy is like just awful.
Yeah, it's like I think they were trying to go more with the obsession with beauty, and not so much the youth, but the way it's worded is just like, oh, you're an asshole.
All right. I'll toss it back over to you, Rode. I think we have one more question to go around about the presents before we outro it.
Yes, actually. So I do have an outro question, and we did not get to this. So I'm going to try to make this rapid fire as well. So we talked about our top hope, but and Caps, if you want to jump in this as well,
Sure thing.
what is your wild card? Like, what is the thing that you think is completely impossible, completely absurd? Pokemon would never do it in a million years. What would it be? And Archaic, I'm going to jump to you.
Okay, so I've got a rationale for this one, so I'll be brief. But right now is a really weird position for the Pokemon trading card game. You don't generally get a lot of discussion about the trading card game in Presents because, like, the releases in Japan and internationally don't often line up, and often Japan's already had the release before international would get their release for the Presents, so you can't really talk about it. But this time, we're all waiting on the Mega Evolution expansion. Japan's got Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia, which comes out a week and a half after the Presents, and we still don't know 82 cards in that. We should know a lot more of the cards by now. And of course, then International gets it a bit later. And yet, they haven't told us anywhere near as much as we'd expect about that set by now, which suggests they're holding back something for the Presents. So, completely unlikely scenario, but what if the reason they've held it back is because they're announcing the return of fairy types to the TCG? It won't happen, but something's going to be announced. It probably won't be that ridiculous. It'll probably be like, yeah, we're bringing back Team Flare Hyper Gear or something like that. But they've got to announce something, because otherwise I'm going to have to translate 80 plus cards on one day, Friday next week, and I don't want to do that.
Mochi, what about you?
I think this is actually a really good question, because I feel like this might be the one Pokemon Presents where I'm going to regret saying this because they're going to completely contradict me. But I feel like this is the one Presents where maybe they're just going to sit back and be like, you know, we've given you like 2 Presents in a row with these crazy reveals. You know, maybe let's step back a bit. I suppose if I had to choose anything. I know it's the VGC guys talking about VGC again, but I was talking about this with Archaic. I think it'd be really cool if they just shadow dropped Pokemon Champions. They just go, hey, you know, we didn't even get like a provisional release date. It just said, the original trailer just says it's in development. It'd be really cool if they just go, it's out now. You can download it on your phone. So
I mean,
cool.
I don't think that's unlikely. I think that's a distinct possibility. Or if it doesn't happen, then like they announce that at Worlds.
I will pipe in as well and say there's something about the demo of ZA being playable at Gamescom. Is that right? But Pokemon Champions is nowhere to be seen, which I like. The common conception for that is, oh, it's way far off, right? But you know, the other option would mean that it's a lot closer than we think it is, right?
It's already out, so why have a demo?
Yeah. So
Storm,
it's
what about
possible.
you?
There's just not much to demo.
Well, yeah, if it's all like use your own Pokemon to battle against other people, that's extremely hard to do a demo of, because you basically need to have rental Pokemon to make it work.
Jumping back in, Storm, what is your wild card?
Detective Pikachu 3.
Yeah, let's go.
Or a Pokemon rhythm game starring Hatsune Miku.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
actually a good shout.
Okay,
we
Caps,
are waiting
what
for
about
the
you?
stuff from Project Voltage High.
Voltage. Yeah,
You know,
that might not actually be like that far off. Maybe it comes out in like maybe Project Voltage songs come out on the Miku rhythm game. Never know.
That's what DJ Pikachu's all about.
I don't know, dude. He's around. He's there. He's got to be there for a reason.
Hey, actually,
Yeah.
you said Detective Pikachu 3. What about Detective Pikachu the movie 2?
Ooh.
Knows.
Wasn't that supposed to happen? When would?
I think
they announced it
Ryan
like
Reynolds signed onto it.
forever ago.
I do want to highlight some of the chat responses to this before I give mine. We have Pal World collaboration, 0% chance. Honestly,
That would actually go crazy.
That would be pretty insane if that happened.
Announced you won the lawsuit and now own the IP.
Yeah. Surprise, Pikachu has a gun now. New Pokemon themed free software on Switch 2, like a calculator or something silly like that, which would be cute. And then
What about a theme?
What was that?
Switch 2 supports themes. Switch 1 never had anything but basic white and basic black. But why not have a Pokemon theme for Switch 2?
Yeah, I mean, it could be possible. We've also got Pokken 2 on the Switch 2, which, I mean, I don't think that's as possible as some of the other wild cards, but I would like to see it. Like, Pokken's kind of cool. I played the arcade version of it a couple of months ago. I found a arcade with the arcade version of it. Played it. It was kind of fun. And the last chat one is they announce a future game based off of fan game. I don't know which one. Personally, my vote would be for an original game based off of Infinite Fusion. I think that would be really funny. And I actually think that Game Freak would be really good at designing fusion Pokemon. Like, they kind of already do that a little bit with the Paradox forms. But like two Pokemon like fused together. I've always liked the concept. Hello? Do you guys hear me there?
Yeah,
Yes.
we hear you. And there's another one you missed from Solar. Return of Pokemon Conquest.
Return of Pokemon Conquest. They did put Nobunaga's Ambition on the Switch Online, so you never know. My wild card is something that I have thought they were going to do a long time ago, but it just never had the I guess it just didn't do it. But I think it's far enough removed that it happens. I think a lot of people are expecting Gens 1 through 3 to be released on the eShop as ports. My wild card is that they will be shadow dropped on Tuesday as updates to the NSO completely free of charge. That's my wild card, specifically because Pokemon is doing the thing that gets them much less money than normal. That's my wild card.
All right, and to add mine, I've actually got two. Well, one is kind of me being sarcastic. Pokemon, them changing Pokemon Masters EX to Pokemon Masters GX, just because the way Pokemon thinks, I feel like that's gonna happen eventually. But in all seriousness, my top two wildcards. And Archaic mentioned one of them, and we've talked about the other in the past. Pokemon Black and White in HD 2D. And then, because this is something we've talked about in Bulbacast before, and I've talked to several people, and it would be amazing, a Stardew Valley-like game where you are a Pokemon breeder and you have to run a ranch where you go through the town, you make deals, you raise Pokemon in the Stardew Valley vibe. I feel like that would be massively successful. I know people in the past have basically said you could also do other games that they've done in the past, but I would love to see those. Really quickly, though, because I know we got to wrap, I'm going to give everyone a chance to outro. I will do my standard and then say goodbye, everybody. But I'm going to ask that everybody answer this outro question because I feel like we need a little bit of animosity between me and Caps right now.
Uh-oh.
The outro question is going to be, would you rather have Mega Meganium or a new Paradox form of Meganium?
That's a good question.
And I'm actually going to start with Archaic.
Mega Meganium, because the Paradox Pokemon have been disappointing. See ya!
And Archaic, can you remind everyone where you can find you? And yeah,
well, people could find me on Bulbagarden's Discord and forums mostly. I haven't been streaming lately, but if they do shadow drop Colosseum and XD, then I will definitely be back to stream those games. I guess I should probably play through Colosseum again before I get into XD, but we'll see. If there's no connectivity, maybe I'll just go straight into XD. Because I really do want to enjoy that. Yeah.
All right. Mochi, can you let us know your choice and let us know where people can find you again?
Well, I want to talk about VGC again. I think with the whole current limit of 1 Mega Evolution per team, I feel like Mega Meganium would really be overshadowed by some of the really insane ones like Charizard and Rayquaza. I think a Paradox Meganium, there is so much you can do with the photosynthesis and quark drive abilities. I think it would just be, it could have, at the very least, it would have a niche that it would fill that no other Pokemon could occupy. And, okay, to sign off, of course, you can find me on YouTube at radiomochi. I'm also streaming right here Bulbagarden tomorrow or today, depending on when you're watching this. I'll be doing some ranked battles. So if you're interested in VGC, you can pop by.
Storm, how about you?
This is maybe a controversial opinion, but I really like the designs for the future paradoxes, so I would like to see a future Paradox Meganium.
And then, Caps, I actually have a special question for you. Would you rather have a Mega Meganium that you would lose or a Paradox Meganium that would be permanent?
Before I answer this, I did want to ask, because I was like poking around some Discord servers and stuff, and so I didn't hear. Did you ask Mochi and Storm where you can find them?
I know Mochi said. Storm, did you say where people could find you?
No. I mean, I have the same username on Bulbapedia and the forums and the Bulbagarden Discord.
I want to give you your moment, Storm.
And I guess I have my Twitter is rstormaurora. So give me a follow. I don't know.
Can you ask the question again, Rod?
Yes. Would you rather have a Mega Meganium, and we'll say it has a broken ability or that you will eventually lose, or a Paradox Meganium that'll be permanent?
I would say a broken Meganium with an ability that you would eventually lose, because like Archaic, I am not super impressed with a lot of the designs for the paradoxes. So I would be disappointed with. But I think that's my answer.
Then where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me. Hello or goodbye, folks. Thanks for having me on, Ro, as always. You can find me here on the Bulbagarden Twitch every Thursday and Saturday, streaming Nuzlocke on Thursday and Mystery Dungeon on Saturday. You can also find me on my personal Twitch channel, which is _caps_fan. You can find the link to that in the about page of the Twitch channel itself. And yeah, I've got a couple of other social links down there if you want to follow me. Socials.
And then, as always, I am Rhodehawk. I am your humble host. I forgot to say this, but you can find YouTube shorts with Pokemon Masters summons. I may or may not be going insane trying to scout both Arc Suit Ethan and Arc Suit Silver without spending $300 or more on the game. That and, oh my gosh, the gym scouts. I hate those things. Anyways, you can find me on there. I will be on the next Bulbacast as well. I will say there are some really cool things coming up, including, if you like Pokemon Masters, we will be doing a anniversary cast on that. Other than that, thank you everyone for joining us, for being awesome, for commenting in the comment section. And if you're on YouTube, let us know what your top hope is for the Pokemon Day Presents. With that, have a grand night, and we will let you go.
Pokemon Day Presents?
Good night.
Really?
Cheers, everyone.
I'm waving as if you could see me waving.
For our Twitch viewers,
we're
I'm
waving.
gonna go and start a raid over to It's Tiffany. If you can join us on that raid, please do so. You just have to say hi from Bulbagarden, and then you can go if you have to. If not, that's totally fine too. But thank you guys for watching. And we'll be back relatively soon with another Bulbacast. for reactions to the event on Tuesday. And that cast will be on Friday. So stay tuned to the Discord for more details about that. And yeah, see you guys later.
See you all again soon.